Ford just did something with the Mustang nameplate that nobody in the industry saw coming. And if the direction being discussed across dealer networks and supplier circles turns out to be accurate, the muscle car segment may never look the same again. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why insiders are calling this the most aggressive Mustang interpretation in over a decade. And there's a detail near the end involving how this machine could reshape what buyers expect from an American performance coupe that you will not want to miss. Welcome to Premium Automotive Reviews, the channel built for people who are tired of surface-level walkarounds and want to actually understand what's happening under the skin of the cars shaping our future. We don't just tell you a car looks fast. We break down the engineering philosophy, the design language, the technology stack, and the market positioning, so that when you watch one of our breakdowns, you walk away smarter than when you clicked play. Today we're diving deep into what industry sources and enthusiast circles are describing as the next-generation Boss 427, a name that hasn't been used on a production Mustang in decades, and one that carries an enormous amount of weight for anyone who understands Ford performance history. So before we get into the styling, the cabin, the technology, and the numbers being floated around, understand this is shaping up to be one of the boldest performance statements Ford has made in a generation. And there are a few elements coming up that genuinely caught our attention. Let's start with what hits you first. Because with a car like this, the exterior isn't just bodywork, it's a statement of intent. The stance alone tells a story that departs sharply from the outgoing generation. Where the current Mustang lineup leans into a more restrained, almost mainstream silhouette, this next evolution is expected to embrace a far more aggressive, track-inspired posture. The proportions suggest a wider front track, a lower ride height, and fender flares that visually and physically push the wheels further outward, giving the car a planted, almost predatory presence that immediately separates it from anything currently sitting in Ford showrooms. The front fascia is engineered around aggression and airflow, working together rather than fighting each other. The grille opening is deep and businesslike, with functional ducting that appears designed to feed cooling to a high-output engine bay, along with brake ducting that hints at serious stopping power being part of the package. Front splitter elements extend low and wide, finished in exposed carbon fiber weave, a material choice that signals this isn't just a styling exercise, but a car engineered with weight distribution and downforce in mind. The headlight architecture is where things get particularly interesting from a design evolution standpoint. Expect a 3-bar LED signature that pays homage to Mustang lighting heritage while being reimagined with sharper, more angular housings that taper into the fender line rather than sitting as a separate element. This is the kind of lighting design that photographs beautifully at night and instantly identifies the car from a distance, which matters more than people realize in a segment where brand recognition on the road is part of the appeal. Moving to the sides, the character line running from the front fender through the door and into the rear haunch is more pronounced than anything currently offered, creating shadow play across the bodywork that changes dramatically depending on the angle of light hitting it. Vertical intake vents positioned just behind the front wheel arches aren't purely decorative either. They're expected to serve a real purpose in managing heat extraction from the front brakes and engine bay, something serious performance engineers care deeply about when a car is expected to see repeated hard use rather than just parking lot appearances. Wheel design on a car like this is never an afterthought. And what's being discussed here leans into a multi-spoke forged design finished with contrasting accent detailing around the barrel, paired with high-performance rubber that fills out the wheel arches completely, leaving almost no gap between tire and fender. That detail alone tells you everything about the suspension tuning philosophy, because a stance like that only happens when a manufacturer is deliberately chasing cornering grip and visual aggression simultaneously. Around back, the rear fascia continues the same aggressive language established up front. A functional rear diffuser integrates quad exhaust outlets, a layout that immediately signals forced induction, or a high-displacement naturally aspirated setup capable of moving serious exhaust volume. Above that, A fixed rear wing, constructed from exposed carbon fiber, sits high enough to be effective at speed without looking bolted on as an afterthought, blending into the deck lid with a factory-integrated appearance that suggests real aerodynamic engineering rather than a dealer accessory. The taillight treatment carries forward the three-element sequential design language Mustang fans have grown attached to, but pushed into sharper, more chiseled housings that mirror the front lighting signature, creating a cohesive visual identity from every angle. Badging across the rear clearly reinforces the Boss 427 identity, a name choice that immediately triggers nostalgia for anyone familiar with Ford's performance lineage, while simultaneously signaling to a new generation of buyers that this isn't a watered-down special edition, it's positioned as the range-topping statement piece. Altogether, the exterior direction suggests Ford understands exactly what this segment demands right now. Road presence that photographs as well parked as it does in motion, and enough visual aggression to justify flagship pricing without crossing into gimmick territory. Now let's step inside, because this is where the story shifts from muscle car bravado into something far more premium than Mustang buyers have historically experienced. The cabin appears to embrace a much more driver-focused, technology-forward layout compared to previous generations. Materials throughout the cabin lean heavily into black leather with contrast stitching, paired with exposed carbon fiber trim spanning the dashboard, center console, and door panels, giving the interior a genuinely upscale feel that competes with performance-oriented luxury brands rather than settling for budget muscle car trim quality. The seating position is low and heavily bolstered, with quilted stitching patterns and embroidered Boss 427 badging integrated directly into the seatbacks, a small but meaningful detail that reinforces the exclusivity of the trim level every time you climb inside. The dashboard architecture centers around a digital instrument cluster paired with a floating center touchscreen, both finished with a seamless, almost aviation-inspired design language that flows naturally into the surrounding trim rather than looking like screens simply grafted onto an existing dash. Physical toggle switches remain for key functions, a detail that performance purists will appreciate because there's something about tactile controls during aggressive driving that touchscreens simply can't replicate safely. Ambient lighting is expected to play a larger role than ever before, with customizable accent lighting running along the door panels and dash trim, allowing owners to personalize the cabin atmosphere for everyday driving versus a more focused track-oriented mood. Ford's connected technology ecosystem is expected to be deeply integrated here, with over-the-air update capability that keeps infotainment, navigation, and even certain performance parameters current without requiring a dealer visit. Something that has become a baseline expectation for buyers who are used to their smartphones improving constantly and now want their vehicles to do the same. Space and practicality haven't been abandoned in the pursuit of performance either. Rear seating remains tight, as expected in this segment, but usable for shorter trips. And the trunk space is expected to remain competitive for a car in this class. Enough for a weekend getaway or a set of track tires and tools for a day at your local circuit. Climate control, seat heating and ventilation, and premium audio are all expected to be part of the higher trim packages, because Ford clearly understands that buyers spending flagship money want a cabin that feels special every single time they get in, not just during a spirited backroad run. Let's talk about the technology stack, because this is an area where next-generation performance cars are increasingly being judged just as heavily as raw horsepower numbers. Driver assistance systems are expected to be significantly expanded, with adaptive cruise control, lane centering, blind spot monitoring, and automated emergency braking, all likely included as standard or near-standard equipment. What makes this particularly interesting is how these systems are expected to be tuned specifically around the car's performance character rather than feeling like a generic safety suite bolted onto a sports car. Think driver assistance calibrated to intervene less aggressively during spirited driving while remaining fully active during daily commuting, a balance that's genuinely difficult to engineer well. Connectivity is expected to extend into a full digital ecosystem, allowing owners to monitor vehicle diagnostics, track performance data, and even review lap timing metrics directly through a companion smartphone application. For track day enthusiasts, this kind of integrated telemetry transforms the car from simply a fast machine into a genuine data-driven performance tool, letting owners analyze braking points, cornering speeds, and acceleration data after every session. Voice command functionality is expected to be considerably more natural and responsive than previous Ford infotainment generations, moving away from rigid command structures toward more conversational interaction, a trend the entire industry has been racing toward as AI-driven assistants become the expectation, rather than the exception. Now for the part everyone's been waiting for, the performance story. Because a name like Boss 427 carries expectations that go back generations. Industry estimates and enthusiast speculation point toward a high-output V8 as the anchor of this lineup, likely built around forced induction to push output well beyond what current Mustang GT and Dark Horse variants deliver. Projected output figures being discussed across automotive forums and supplier chatter suggest somewhere in the range of 600 to potentially over 700 horsepower. Though these numbers remain unconfirmed and should be treated as informed projections rather than official specification, until Ford makes a formal announcement. Torque figures are expected to follow a similarly aggressive trajectory, engineered to deliver the kind of low-end shove that makes a muscle car feel genuinely explosive off the line rather than simply quick on paper. Transmission options are anticipated to include both a track-focused manual gearbox for purists who still value three-pedal engagement, alongside a rapid-shifting automatic calibrated for launch control and consistent quarter-mile performance. Suspension architecture is expected to be significantly reworked, likely incorporating adaptive magnetic ride technology that allows the car to shift character dramatically between a comfortable daily setting and a genuinely track-capable stiffness at the push of a button. Braking hardware is expected to scale accordingly, with large-diameter rotors and high-clamping force calipers designed to repeatedly haul the car down from serious speed without fade, a critical requirement for any performance car that wants to be taken seriously on track rather than just in a straight line. There's also been ongoing industry discussion around whether electrification plays any role in this next chapter of Mustang performance. While a fully electric Boss variant seems unlikely given the nameplate's deep combustion heritage, some reports suggest a hybrid assist system could be explored in future iterations to help manage emissions regulations while preserving or even enhancing outright performance through instant electric torque fill. Nothing here is confirmed, and Ford has not made any official statement regarding hybridization for this specific trim, but it's worth understanding as part of the broader direction the performance car industry is heading. Ride quality and daily drivability are worth addressing directly because a car this aggressive-looking can sometimes sacrifice everyday usability entirely. Based on the direction Ford has taken with recent performance variants, expect an emphasis on adjustable driving modes that genuinely transform the car's behavior rather than offering marginal differences. A comfort-oriented setting is expected to soften suspension response and quiet exhaust note for commuting, while a track-focused mode sharpens throttle response, firms up damping, and opens up the exhaust for maximum acoustic drama. This kind of dual personality has become almost mandatory for flagship performance cars, because manufacturers understand buyers want a car capable of daily errands just as much as they want weekend track domination. Safety technology deserves its own moment here because it's easy to overlook in a conversation dominated by horsepower figures. Expect a comprehensive suite of driver monitoring and collision avoidance systems working quietly in the background, designed to reassure owners without ever feeling intrusive during enthusiastic driving. Automatic high-beam control, rear cross-traffic alerts, and enhanced parking sensor arrays are all anticipated as part of the broader safety package, reflecting how even the most aggressive performance vehicles now need to satisfy modern safety expectations to remain competitive in the marketplace. So who exactly is this car built for? Realistically, this feels engineered for two overlapping audiences. First, longtime Mustang enthusiasts and Boss nameplate loyalists who have been waiting for Ford to bring back a truly flagship-level performance statement. something that goes beyond incremental trim updates and actually pushes the boundaries of what a factory Mustang can be. Second, a newer generation of performance buyers who care just as much about cabin technology, connected features, and daily usability as they do about straight-line speed. Buyers who grew up expecting their vehicles to feel as digitally sophisticated as their smartphones, while still delivering genuine mechanical excitement behind the wheel. Compared to where the segment currently sits, this next-generation direction feels less like an evolution and more like a repositioning. Rather than competing purely on horsepower figures against rivals, the emotional appeal here leans heavily into heritage married with modern execution, giving buyers a machine that feels both deeply rooted in American muscle car history and genuinely forward-looking in its technology and design execution. That combination, when done right, is incredibly difficult for competitors to replicate because it requires decades of brand equity that simply can't be manufactured overnight. Pricing remains speculative at this stage, with industry analysts projecting a premium positioning well above current Mustang trims, reflecting the expanded performance hardware, premium materials, and flagship badge status this variant is expected to carry. Production timing also remains unconfirmed publicly, though supplier chatter and industry pattern recognitions suggest a staged rollout is likely, with initial availability limited before broader market expansion follows. A strategy Ford has used previously for Halo performance trims to manage both production complexity and initial demand. What makes this particular direction so compelling isn't just the raw numbers being discussed, it's the philosophy behind it. This feels like Ford making a deliberate statement that the muscle car isn't dying, it's evolving, adapting to a world of digital ecosystems, adaptive technology, and shifting buyer expectations while refusing to abandon the raw mechanical emotion that made the segment beloved in the first place. Whether every rumored detail ends up matching final production specifications remains to be seen, but the direction alone tells you Ford understands exactly what enthusiasts have been asking for. A genuine successor worthy of wearing the Boss badge rather than a marketing exercise, trading on nostalgia alone. If this next-generation performance direction holds up through official confirmation, it won't just be another fast Mustang. It will represent a meaningful marker in how legacy American performance brands are choosing to compete in an era dominated by technology, connectivity, and shifting buyer priorities. This is a car that seems built to bridge two very different eras of automotive expectation, and that balancing act alone makes it worth watching closely as more official information emerges. If this breakdown gave you a clearer picture of where Ford's performance lineup might be heading, consider sticking around the channel, because we'll be covering every official update the moment it drops. A like helps this kind of in-depth analysis reach more people who care about understanding cars beyond the headline numbers. And if you've got thoughts on whether the Boss name deserves this kind of return, drop them in the comments. We genuinely read through them. Until the next breakdown, this has been Premium Automotive Reviews. This video is based on current automotive industry insights, publicly available information, market trends, design analysis, and reliable reports available at the time of writing. All specifications, features, pricing, performance figures, production plans, and launch timelines discussed are speculative in nature and remain subject to change. Nothing in this video should be interpreted as an official announcement or confirmation from Ford Motor Company, unless explicitly stated as such by the manufacturer.